I went camping a few weeks ago. I'm usually fine being alone in nature, but this place felt different. Everyone talked about the ghost hunters who vanished in these woods. It made me uneasy, but I had work to do. I set up my tent as dusk fell. The trees were tall and silent. The air smelled like damp leaves. I could hear a brook nearby. It was peaceful, but there was something about the quiet that felt wrong. Around midnight I heard something. It might have been footsteps. I squinted into the dark but couldn't see anything. A rustling came from the brush. I thought it was probably just a deer, but then I got this cold chill up my spine. I saw a shadow move between the trees. It was quick, and I wondered if I was imagining it. The feeling of being watched wouldn't leave me. The next day I figured I'd be okay, but as night fell again, things got weirder. I heard a voice. It called my name, clear and sharp. Emily. I froze. My heart raced. I thought someone else was nearby, but when I looked around, there was no one. I shook it off, thinking I was losing my mind. That night I felt a cold spot in my tent. It was like someone had opened a door to the outside. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to fend off the chill. I could still hear that voice echoing in my head. I started digging into the history of the area. I wanted to know more about the ghost hunters. Their names flickered in my mind, but the stories were fuzzy. I felt like I was solving a puzzle, but missing too many pieces. Each answer led to more questions, wrapping around me like vines. On the last night, I was jumpy. I sat by the fire, but I couldn't focus. I swore I caught sight of figures at the edge of the woods. It felt like something was pulling at me, trying to get my attention. I glanced around, flashlight in hand, but I didn't see anyone. My skin crawled. That voice came again. Emily. This time it sounded urgent, closer. I tried to call out, but the words wouldn't come. I turned to look. Nothing was there. Just trees, standing like sentinels, shadows looming. Then I saw it. This flicker of movement. A figure, just out of sight. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Heart racing, I wanted to turn away, but I couldn't. It was like my feet were glued to the ground. "What do you want?" I whispered into the thick night. Silence wrapped around me. Then the darkness seemed to deepen. I could feel it closing in, a presence that left me breathless. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run, but I was paralyzed. Cold vapor filled the air. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was there, it was watching, waiting. I didn't sleep much that night. Every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig sent my heart racing. I lay in my tent, trying to convince myself it was just the wind. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. The voice was still echoing in my mind, swirling with uncertainty and fear. When dawn finally broke, I felt a mix of relief and dread. I had made it through the night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The campsite seemed different in daylight. Shadows felt deeper, and the trees loomed taller. I decided to pack up my things. I needed to get out of there. As I was rolling up my sleeping bag, I noticed something strange on the ground near the edge of the clearing. It looked like a piece of fabric, frayed and dirty. Curious, I bent down to examine it. It was a small patch of a dark jacket, worn and faded. I'd never seen anything like it before. I glanced around as if expecting someone to appear, but the area was empty. I pocketed the fabric, feeling uneasy. It might have belonged to one of the ghost hunters. Had they lost it while trying to escape? I shook my head, trying to dispel the dark thoughts swirling in my mind. I needed to focus on getting out. As I finished packing, I felt that chilling sensation again, the feeling of being watched. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the shadowy figure from last night. Nothing. Just the trees, standing silently, as if holding their secrets close. I started hiking down the trail, my heart pounding in my chest. I kept looking back, anxious that I'd see someone or something lurking just behind the trees. I told myself it was just my imagination, but every snapping twig made me jump, and the air felt thick with tension. Then I saw it again. a figure just at the corner of my eye. I turned abruptly, but there was nothing there, just the trees, just the whispering leaves. Panic clutched at my throat. I began to walk faster, pushing myself to put distance between me and whatever was following me. That's when I heard the voice again. "Emily!" It was clearer now, echoing around me like a mocking refrain. I stopped. My breath came in shallow gasps. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted into the woods, hoping for an answer. The only response was silence. Then, ahead of me on the path, I saw a dark shape emerge from behind a tree. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. Was it a person? A figment of my imagination? The moment felt like time had slowed. I felt frozen in disbelief. But as it stepped into the light, I realized it was much worse. The shape wasn't human. It was tall and gaunt, with elongated limbs and hollow eyes that seemed sunken deep into its skull. My pulse quickened, a primal instinct telling me to run. I turned to sprint back the way I came, but the path behind me was gone. Thick fog enveloped everything, drowning the sunlight. In that moment of panic, I recalled the story about the ghost hunters. They had vanished into the same forest, never to be found again. And now I was just as lost. Then, before I could fully comprehend the situation, the figure spoke again, only this time it was more than just a whisper. "Join us, Emily." I felt my breath hitch. I didn't understand what that meant. I had to find a way out before it was too late. But the fog thickened, and the weight of the invisible presence pressed against me. I was surrounded, and I had no idea what to do next. The fog wrapped around me like a thick blanket, pressing in from all sides. I turned to face the figure again. It hadn't moved closer, but I could feel its gaze boring into me, as if it were weighing my very soul. The air felt heavier, weighted with something more than just mist. "Join us, Emily." The voice slithered through the fog, chilling and devoid of emotion. I shook my head, trying to clear the panic from my mind. I needed to think. I needed to escape. I took a tentative step back, then another. Each movement felt like a betrayal to my instincts, but I couldn't stay here. The shadows in the trees seemed to shift closer, darkening the path I had just walked. It was as though the forest itself was conspiring to keep me here. I turned and sprinted in the opposite direction, praying that I could find the trail again. The ground was uneven, and branches snagged at my clothes as I pushed through the underbrush. My breath came in sharp gasps, but I didn't dare slow down. The figure lingered in my mind, its hollow eyes haunting me. I thought of the dark fabric I found earlier. Was this connected? Did it belong to someone who had come before me and never left? Just ahead, I saw an opening in the trees. I dashed towards it, hopeful it would lead to safety. But when I stumbled through, I found myself in a small clearing filled with worn stones, brittle and grey. The sight sent a jolt of unease through me. It looked like a graveyard of sorts, with old, crumbling markers leaning at odd angles. There were names etched into some, but the letters were too faded to read. My heart raced. Were these the ghost hunters? The realization gripped me with fear. I was treading on ground marked by the lost souls of the forest. I heard it again. The voice. "Stay with us." This time it was layered with a chorus of whispers. I glanced around, terrified yet curious. Who were these voices? Were they calling me as the figure had urged? Suddenly I noticed something shining at the base of one of the stones. I moved closer, my hands trembling as I reached down. It was a silver locket, cold and tarnished, half buried in the dirt. I instinctively opened it, revealing a faded photograph of a group of people smiling, wearing the same dark jackets I had seen the night before. My breath hitched again. I recognized one face. It was a woman with striking features. A chill ran up my spine, the familiarity of her smile piercing through the fog of fear. The locket slipped from my fingers, falling to the ground with a soft thud. Then I heard laughter echoing all around me. The sinister sound filled the clearing, and I felt a presence rushing towards me. It was too much. I had to get out. I turned to run, but the figure was back, blocking my path. "Join us, Emily." The voice now had an urgency, a hunger. I couldn't stay here. I had to escape the very essence of this forest. But just as I made a move to shove past it, I felt a hand grip my arm, icy and vice-like. The fog twisted around us, pulling me deeper into the shadows. The grip tightened. I was being pulled toward the voices, toward something I couldn't comprehend. I fought back, desperate to break free, but I was drawn in by the fear of not knowing what would happen next. That's when I saw the others, a circle of figures emerging from the fog, their hollow eyes staring, waiting. I was no longer alone, and I realized in that moment it wasn't just me they wanted. As I stood frozen, the figures shifted forward, their faces obscured by the density of the fog. The grip on my arm released, yet the unsettling presence loomed heavier than before. I stumbled back, but the ground beneath me felt unsteady. "Don't resist, Emily," one of the figures urged, stepping into a slant of pale light that managed to pierce the swirling mist. They held a lantern, its flickering flame showing an expression I couldn't decipher, a mix of pity and something darker. "What do you want? Who are you?" My voice trembled, age-old fears bubbling to the surface. "We want you to understand." Another figure, this one less distinct, stepped forward. "You're part of something much bigger than yourself." I shook my head, backing away further despite every instinct screaming at me to flee. I had seen the locket. I had recognized that woman. Had she been one of them? Had she made the same horrifying choice? "Please," I pleaded, my breath quickening, "just let me go." "Joining us is the only way to break free," the first figure insisted, but there was an edge to their tone that suggested their intentions weren't as benevolent as they claimed. Suddenly the wind picked up, gusting through the clearing with a haunting whisper. The laughter returned, swirling around me, echoing my most primal fears. I turned to run again, searching for a path through the figures, but they formed a wall, their eyes like black holes pulling me closer to whatever nightmare awaited. In desperation, I forced myself to look past them at the stones. Perhaps there was information etched there that could help me understand why I was here, why I was being beckoned. I darted to my left, arms raised in defense as I shoved past the nearest figure. "Don't stay!" they called. But I didn't stop. I leaped to the nearest headstone, my hands brushing over the cold stone, searching for any sign, names, dates, anything that could explain this grim assembly. Then my fingers grazed over smooth metal, a small plaque fixed to the base of the stone. I knelt, brushing aside leaves and dirt, revealing more of the inscription, a name, a date. But the year made my stomach drop. It was decades earlier than I had imagined. It was from a time before I was born, a time before they could have vanished into this fog. Each name felt like a weight bearing down on me, a chain of forgotten endings. Before I could process what that meant, the figures pressed in closer, pressing against me like shadows. My heart raced. While I had tried to fight the urge to give in, something pulled at the corners of my mind. Their whispers grew, overpowering me. "You see, Emily, you're not the first. You won't be the last." I felt the ground tremble beneath me as panic surged. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but the very air felt charged, electric with some overwhelming force. The laughter bubbled once more, drowning out my thoughts. Then, in an instant, the fog thickened, swirling around me like a cyclone. Everything turned dark. All at once, the whispers stopped. In that silence I felt a new presence, a figure standing sentinel, more solid than the others. It stepped closer, and as the fog began to recede, I caught sight of the face. It was her, the woman from the locket. "Emily," she said, her voice a soft echo of familiarity. "Welcome home." Frozen in shock, I realized I was no longer just a visitor in this cursed place. I was becoming part of it. The fog receded slowly, revealing the woman more clearly. Her eyes were deep wells of sorrow, yet they shone with an energy that felt magnetic. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. "Who are you?" The question slipped out, barely above a whisper. "My name is Clara," she replied, taking a step closer, "and I've been waiting for you." The surreal nature of it all twisted my stomach. "Why? Why me?" "You bear a legacy," Clara said, peering into my eyes, "a connection to the past that cannot be ignored." I thought of my family, the stories they'd told me of our ancestors, but none had ever mentioned anything like this. What happened here?" Clara hesitated, glancing toward the figures that hovered just behind me. Their presence felt suffocating, like a thick blanket that stifled any chance of clarity. "The stones," she said. "Those who were lost remain tethered to them. Their souls seek peace, but instead they have found something far darker." Before I could fully process her words, I heard a low growl rising from the shadows. The figures stirred, their expressions shifting from watchful to predatory. "You shouldn't be here," one of them hissed, the voice barely human. "Your bloodline belongs to us." A cold shiver ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" Clara raised her hand, as if to shield me. "You must listen, Emily. There's still time. Not all is lost." The growling intensified. "Leave or join us. It's your choice to make." I could feel the weight of their eyes, drawing me closer to a fate I didn't want to comprehend. "What happens if I stay?" "We will reveal the truth." Clara's voice was firm, lightning-fast conviction sparking in her eyes. "But it comes with a price." The pressure around me thickened, each figure vibrating with an energy that surged like a tide. An overwhelming rush of memories flooded my mind. Images of faces I didn't recognize, events I had never lived, yet felt so achingly familiar. My family tree suddenly twisted to show branches I had never known existed. "What did my ancestors do?" I gasped, fighting against the pull in my thoughts. Something dark shifted in the air. Clara's face hardened. "Long ago they made a pact, offering themselves to this place. They thought they were securing their line, but it only trapped them here, feeding the darkness." Before I could respond, the wind howled through the trees, sending a fresh wave of fog rolling in. The figures advanced, their shadows stretching toward me. "Join us!" they chanted, their voices mingling with the cold wind. "Complete the cycle." I stumbled back, my instincts screaming at me to run. But then something in me shifted. It was as if a door had been opened within my mind, revealing a deeper understanding. A part of me sought the truth, and the other feared what it could mean. "Run," Clara urged, her voice breaking. "Only then can you break the hold they have over you." I hesitated for the briefest moment, but as the figures closed in, their laughter echoing in the darkness, I made my choice. I turned and sprinted toward the edge of the clearing, feeling the cold breath of the fog claw at my back. Then, just as I thought I had gained distance, I heard Clara's voice break through the chaos. "Find the locket, it's the key!" My heart pounded, focused on only one thought. I had to escape this darkness, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had only just begun to uncover the twisted reality of my legacy. The forest loomed ahead, wild and dark, and I knew without a doubt that I would return. I stumbled out of the clearing, breathless and disoriented. The forest loomed around me, branches like skeletal fingers reaching out from the fog. Each step felt heavy, like I was wading through the memories that had just crashed into my mind. I had to find the locket. What was it? Where was it? The sounds of the forest filled my ears. The crack of twigs, the whisper of leaves, but just beneath it all was the constant low growl, a reminder that the darkness had only been momentarily halted. I pushed on, my heart racing. After a few minutes of running, I paused to catch my breath. I leaned against a tree, feeling the rough bark press against my back. My thoughts whirled. The figures, Clara, the locket. The pieces of this puzzle felt just out of reach. Suddenly, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. A flash of white darted between the trees. My pulse quickened. Was it one of them? I took a cautious step forward, the forest seemingly bending closer around me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice almost swallowed by the fog. Silence replied. I took another step. There it was again, a figure, pale and fleeting. Without thinking, I chased after it. I pushed through the underbrush, branches snagging at my clothes, and the white figure grew clearer. It was a person, a woman, but her face was obscured by shadows, and her body moved with an unsettling grace, gliding rather than running. "Wait!" I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. As I chased her, I felt a pulse of energy in the air, magnetic and compelling. "Emily!" the woman called back, her voice almost melodic. It sent chills racing through me. "You're here for answers." "Who are you?" I replied, my breath hitching. "Someone who was drawn to the locket just like you. I can help you find it." As she turned to face me fully, my heart dropped. Her eyes were just like Clara's, deep and sorrowful, yet vibrant. "You're lost, and so is the locket." The realization hit hard. Lost? Those words echoed in my mind, filling me with confusion and fear. Yes, the pact your ancestors made was never fully complete. They are tied to that stone, but it is you who holds the key to their freedom. You need to reclaim it. Before I could ask for more clarity, the growling returned, louder and more insistent. The woman's eyes shifted wide with fear. "They'll come for you. They won't let you leave." I felt the ground vibrate beneath me, a warning of what was to come. "What do I do?" "Trust yourself. Trust your bloodline." She pointed deeper into the forest. "You'll find the locket in the hollow tree, but you must hurry." With that, she spun away into the fog and vanished. Panic surged within me, and my instincts screamed to run, but to where? I quickly turned toward the direction she indicated, heart racing as I moved deeper into the shadows of ancient trees. Then everything went dark. A chill swept over me, and the growl turned into a cacophony of voices, all of them calling my name. "Emily!" I stumbled, fear slicing through me as I fought the urge to scream. I could feel the darkness closing in, and with it, an overwhelming sense of urgency. I had to find the locket before the shadows ensnared me completely. As I plunged forward, one thought echoed in my mind. There was no turning back now. I gasped as I pushed through the thick underbrush, terror wrapping around me like a cloak. The whispering voices surrounded me, each tone a reminder of my unraveling reality. I stumbled but pressed on, feeling the weight of the growling shadows behind me. I had to reach that hollow tree. The path twisted, each step taking me deeper into the heart of the forest. I could hardly make sense of what was happening. The woman's words echoed in my ear, urging clarity. But nothing felt clear. It all seemed like a web of confusion, and I was caught in the middle. Suddenly the air shifted. A blast of cold wind shot through the trees, and branches snapped like breaking bones. I froze. Something was near. I strained to listen, heart hammering. Just ahead, I caught sight of something, an outline, dark against the fog. My gut twisted with uncertainty. Could it be the hollow tree? I took a hesitant step forward, and it seemed to shift like it was alive. Was I imagining it? Just as I prepared to run, a sharp cry shattered the air. "Emily!" It was the woman again, but this time her voice was laced with urgency, a plea laced with desperation. With renewed resolve, I dashed toward the sound, desperate to escape the clutches of the growling voices. As I rounded the bend, I skidded to a stop. The hollow tree loomed before me, gnarled and ancient, its bark split open like a jagged grin. "This is it," I whispered to myself, but my relief was short-lived. The shadows pooled around its base, vibrating with restlessness. I felt their presence, a weight heavy in the air. Retreat wasn't an option. I stepped closer, hand extending toward the hollow, and then, as I peered into the darkness of the tree, I saw something glimmering at the back. The locket! I reached inside, but something yanked at me, a force pulling me backward. The shadows distorted and surged, whispering fevered warnings, their voices blending into a chilling chorus. Suddenly, I was face to face with her, a figure emerging from the darkness of the tree, eyes gleaming with a sickly light. It was Clara. "You don't belong here!" she screeched, her hands clawed and monstrous. I came for the locket," I stuttered, stepping back instinctively. "Foolish girl." She lunged, a rush of power radiating from her. I barely managed to dodge, stumbling as I moved. In that instant of chaos, I grasped the locket. It felt warm against my palm, pulsing with an energy I couldn't understand. "Let me go," I shouted, and the shadows shrieked in response. Then Clara spoke, the rage in her voice matching the darkness surrounding us. "You can't use that!" But I didn't have time to argue. My instincts kicked in, and I pulled the locket to my chest, feeling the strange warmth spread through me. I didn't know what it would do, but somehow I felt empowered. The shadows roared, and Clara faltered, confusion flickering in her eyes. "No, you're not ready." Or not. Before I could think, I turned and ran toward the edge of the clearing. My heart raced. The growl returned, but this time I fought against it. I had the locket, and whatever it was mine now. As I burst back into the fog, the haunting presence of Clara faded into the dark. But I knew this was only the beginning. There were more answers to find, and I needed to face whatever awaited me next. That's when I heard it. A low rustle behind me, followed by an unsettling whisper. "Emily, come back." I froze, fear gripping me once more. Something was still hunting. I had to move, but I wasn't sure where to go. I felt hunted and trapped, heart pounding louder than ever. The whispers faded for a moment, but my heart didn't let up. I turned, scanning the shadowy trees around me, my breath shallow. Every rustle and creak felt like a warning. I needed to keep moving, but uncertainty gnawed at me. I couldn't stay in one place. I took a tentative step forward, glancing back one last time. As I pressed deeper into the fog, I stumbled upon a narrow path, barely visible through the thick underbrush. Should I follow it? Fear churned in my stomach, but my need to escape overpowered my hesitation. The moment I set foot on the path, I heard it again. "Emily, come back." I shivered. The voice was different this time, softer, more pleading. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice breaking the silence. The forest swallowed my words, making me feel small and alone. As I moved, the shadows crept closer, but I kept my grip on the locket. It was my only anchor to reality. I needed answers. "Where are you?" I whispered, hoping for a response. I didn't want to feel this way. I wanted clarity. Then, without warning, the ground near me shimmered, and a figure emerged from the trees. My heart raced as the shape took form. A man, tall and gaunt, his face obscured by a hood. He stepped forward, a halo of mist surrounding him. "I'm here to guide you," he said, his voice gravelly yet calming. "You've come seeking truth." "Truth?" I echoed, struggling to regain control over my fear. "You know what's happening?" He nodded slowly, the shadows swirling around him. "You must leave this forest. It calls to you, but it's not safe. Clara will hunt you." At the sound of her name, ice ran through my veins. I couldn't go back, not after what I had seen. "But the locket." "It's powerful," he interrupted. "More than you know. But it inexplicably connects you to the darkness here." He gestured with a long finger toward the shadowy depths of the forest. "You cannot stay. It will consume you." My thoughts raced. Why did I feel drawn to the locket? Why did it feel warm when I held it? "How do I leave?" I pleaded, looking into his haunting eyes for an answer. "You have to make a choice," he said, his voice lowering. "Use the locket, or you will be trapped here." Before I could respond, a growl echoed behind me, deep and primal. I turned, panic rising. The shadows began to thicken, transforming the forest around me into a dark whirlwind of chaos. Clara's laughter screeched through the air, sending chills through my spine. "You think you can escape? I'm not afraid of you," I yelled back, gripping the locket. But my voice trembled, betraying my fear. "Then show me!" Clara shrieked, plunging into view with a swarm of shadows at her back. She looked different this time, more monstrous, more threatening. Suddenly the man stepped between us. "You must decide now," he urged, urgency filling his voice. "Use it, Emily!" I didn't know what to do. The energy of the locket pulsed against my chest, and at that moment I realized there was no hiding from the truth. I had to embrace my fear. As Clara lunged, I lifted the locket before me, readying myself for whatever might come next. That's when everything went dark. I gasped as my surroundings turned pitch black. It felt as though I'd been pulled from one world and thrust into another. My heart hammered in my chest. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear Clara's laughter echoing around me, bouncing off the darkness. "Emily!" The whisper came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The locket felt warm against my skin, a gentle pulsing that was both comforting and unsettling. "What do I do?" I whispered to myself, feeling utterly lost. I remembered the man's words. I had to choose. I closed my eyes and focused on the heat radiating from the locket. What if it could protect me? I reached for it, feeling its surface, trying to tap into whatever power it held. As I concentrated, the darkness flickered, momentarily revealing shadowy shapes swirling in chaos. Suddenly, the glow from the locket burst forth like a beacon, illuminating a small area around me. I took a step and felt a thin barrier between me and the encroaching shadows. For a fleeting moment, I was filled with hope. "I can do this," I said, trying to muster courage. As the glow intensified, I spotted the man again, on the fringes of the light. "You're gaining control," he encouraged, his gravelly voice cutting through the fog. "But you must focus. Clara will not give up easily." "I'm not afraid," I shouted, wanting to believe it. The glow pulsed more strongly, and the shadows recoiled as if they were alive, hissing and swirling away from the light. I dared a glance in Clara's direction. She was closer now, her features twisted with rage, the darkness coiling around her like hungry vines. "Foolish girl," she spat, and in that moment I could see her more clearly. Her eyes, black and hollow, bore into me. "You think that relic can save you? It only binds you to me." The shadows surged forward again, darkness clawing at the edges of my light. I felt a flicker of doubt. What if she was right? I strained to concentrate, focusing on the locket and all its warmth. "No, you won't take me." With that, I thrust the locket forward, shouting, "Show me the truth!" The light exploded outward, rays slicing through the shadows with a blinding intensity. I staggered back, shielding my eyes, and the world around me transformed. I was no longer in the dense forest. I stood in a vast, open field, shrouded in mist. The darkness pushed back, but the relief was short-lived. Before me, Clara appeared once more, now manifesting as a swirling mass of shadow. "You can't escape that easily." Her voice boomed around me, echoing with anger. "Help me!" I cried to the man, my voice wavering. He emerged from the mist, more solid this time. "You must harness the locket's power," he instructed, stepping beside me. "You still control it. Don't let her fear you." As Clara lunged again, the shadows lunging to reclaim what they lost, I took a deep breath. I didn't know what would happen next, but I had to fight. "I'm not afraid of you." I pushed the locket outward, yelling, "Show me!" The light flared brighter than before, illuminating my surroundings in a pure blaze, ready to confront whatever came next. And then, in the midst of that light, I saw something, a glimpse of a figure trapped in the shadows, a face I recognized, someone I thought was lost. "What is this?" I whispered, heart sinking in dread. That realization sent a wave of fear crashing over me. This wasn't just about me anymore. The figure emerged more clearly, trapped within the shifting shadows. It was Clara, her humanity replaced by the darkness that surrounded her, yet I could see the woman she once was. "Help me," she cried out, her voice trembling with desperation. I stood paralyzed, the locket vibrating in my hand. You're the one they're trying to keep," I realized, recognition dawning. But the echoes of the past surged like a tide, threatening to overwhelm me. I had always thought of Clara as a creature of darkness, but now faced with the ghost of her former self, I felt pity knotting in my chest. "Don't listen to her!" The man's gravelly voice broke through the suffocating silence. "She's lost, and she will seek to trap you within this darkness with her." "Emily!" Clara struggled against the shadows enveloping her. "You can save me! Together, we can break free!" Her eyes gleamed, mixing urgency with a hidden malice. "You're stronger than you know. Use the locket. Free us!" I hesitated. What if the only way to escape was to truly understand what had happened to Clara? The stories I had uncovered, the darkness that bound her to this forest. Was it a ritual of some kind? Had her soul been sacrificed to a malignant force? As feelings of doubt and sympathy warred within me, I realized I had to make a choice. Closing my eyes, I returned my focus to the locket. I could feel its warmth resonating with a surge of energy. It wasn't just Clara who was trapped, it was a lineage of lost souls. What if the truth wasn't just about freeing Clara, but about releasing all of them? That's when I understood. I couldn't save Clara without freeing the others. I looked up into Clara's hollow gaze. "I won't let them take me, and I can't let you remain in this darkness," I declared, my voice steady despite the chaos swirling around me. "But I can help free you all. I can set you all free." "What do you think you can do?" she hissed, her demeanor shifting as the bitterness clawed at her tone. "In my lineage, there's a bond, a pact made in desperation, but bonds can be broken." The words surged forth, fueled by a newfound resolve. "I'll bring light to this darkness and reveal the truth. It's time for you to be free." With that, I raised the locket as high as I could. The glow intensified, pushing back the shadows, and I could see more figures emerging from the darkness as they recognized the light. They were drawn toward me, lost and yearning. "Emily, no!" Clara shrieked. But I felt the energy building, each heartbeat pounding around me. "You don't know what you're doing!" But I did. I could feel the burden of their pain and fear resonating in my chest. "To break the cycle, we need to confront it," I shouted, my voice piercing the silence. The moment I spoke those words, the shadows roared and Clara lunged forward. I braced myself as she clawed through the light, but with a flick of the locket, the energy shot outwards in all directions, illuminating everything in a brilliant flare. Time slowed as I felt a powerful force wash over me. The light twisted and churned, wrapping around Clara and the figures slowly separating from the darkness. Again, I felt a connection, the threads binding their fates unraveling before my eyes. "I will not be lost." Clara's face twisted with rage and desperation, but as the light enveloped her, I saw flickers of her humanity emerge from the mass of shadows. And then the figures were breaking through. Families, friends, all yearning and lost, voices rising like a cacophony. "Thank you," echoed through the air as pieces of Clara's soul began to detach, revealing a path to their freedom. In that moment of realization, I understood one truth. It was never only Clara I was awakening. It was every darkness that fed the pain, each ghost held captive by fear and loss. The looming presence behind Clara grew chaotic, shadows swirling into a tempest, fighting against the brilliance. Just when I thought it would consume me, I felt my connection to the locket grow stronger. Arms outstretched, I shouted, "Face the truth! Let the light in!" As I uttered those words, the light erupted from within me, cascading into the darkness and chopping through the chaos with fierce intensity. The figure of Clara wailed, lost amidst the brightness, flailing as the vestiges of her anguished past began to disperse. The swirling had become an explosion of light, shadows dissipating like mist in the morning sun. I felt Clara's essence blend with the figures emerging at my side, each one grasping for freedom. Then just like that it stopped. The echoing voices faded into silence, leaving behind a haunting stillness. I opened my eyes, breathless, unsure if I could even comprehend what had just taken place. As the golden light waned, I saw the hollow tree behind me, now stripped of its darkness, shimmering like a crystal. Standing before it, I felt lightheaded and weak, but I sensed the shadows were retreating, chased back into the depths. I had freed them. But even as I breathed in the air, clean and serene, I knew the forest had not grown entirely silent. In that moment of calm, I still felt eyes on me, shadows still lurking beyond the trees. I might have freed some from the bindings of the past, but the memories were woven deep into the forest's heart, intertwining with my own. I turned back to glance at the hollow tree, a gateway now, perhaps, home to remnants of the stories untold. There was so much more to discover, but it was also a reminder. Darkness can linger, and questions may remain unanswered. And so the woods beckoned me back, holding on to the shadows of the past, but offering glimpses of light where hope had once been lost. I steeled my resolve, knowing I would need to return, to weave through the layers of history that still whispered secrets in the wind. But knowing that for now I had survived, that was enough.